Testing. And my camera is not focusing. Hey everyone, hope everyone's okay. I apologize for my camera. It seems to want to focus in on really close. Hopefully it'll catch up here in a second. I got Iain Highfield on
Hey
here.
guys.
Iain, say hi to everyone.
Hey
So,
guys.
When we decided to do it, wow, look at that. It's like being on, it's like beer goggles, right? Have you seen that app, that beer goggle app?
I don't know, man. I don't know what beer goggles are like. I've never experienced them.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my camera. That's a little bizarre. You know, everything works well until it doesn't work. So until I get it fixed, I'm just going to go with no video for right now. I'm just going to go like this for now until I can get it fixed up. So I just wanted to say hi and thanks for everyone for joining. We got some on Facebook and here on the Zoom, and so we'll try to answer some questions as we go along. But so Iain, you know, it's some crazy times right now, isn't it?
Yeah, just a bit. I think this is maybe we will never ever see a time like this again as long as we live. I think well, I hope that's the case for one, but and I think that'll probably be the case for two. Yeah, it's very strange, and obviously more thoughts with you guys up in the north and where a lot of your main clients are. We got it a little bit easier down here in Georgia. So thoughts with you guys, and hope everyone's staying safe.
Yeah, we're hanging in there. You know, we were doing pretty good until Cuomo came out today and said, you know what, May 15th is going to be the new date, and it's like a gut punch for us. So it's kind of tough. So so that kind of brings up, well, you know, one of the things I want to talk about is you know, how do we deal with this adversity? What are some of the things you think that people at home, where all of a sudden it sounds like, oh yeah, we're going to get outside, and then we're not, and you can kind of relate it to when you're playing or something or out there. But what are some
Yeah.
things that people can do to kind of mitigate some of the disappointment of not being out?
I think first of all, and look, I'm never going to say that this is a positive thing. It's not. It's not. People are losing their lives. People are losing their businesses. This ultimately is a negative event. But when the president or the governor says, "Okay, you can go back outside," that's completely out of your control. When they find a vaccine for this virus, that's completely out of your control. But how you react to the event is completely within your control. So I guess the first thing that I did was I accepted, okay, I'm going to lose X amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
And once I accepted that, I started to have the ability to focus on, okay, what am I going to do with this time? And I really started to focus on the things that I can control, things that I'd planned on doing for a long time that I hadn't because life got in the way, or my time management skills were poor, or I didn't write this or do this because someone wanted a lesson. So I went and got paid. That was my choice, as opposed to do A, B, or C, you know, the things that necessarily aren't going to get me money now, but might be amazing in 3 or 4 years' time. They always seem to go to the back of the queue. So I think the first thing I did was, rather than keep telling myself, this is going to be okay, this is going to be okay, I sort of looked at what is the maximum amount of money that I can lose over 3 months. And I wrote it off. And I said, now anything that I get under this is a bonus. So through, I guess, accepting the situation, understanding that I can't control certain things, I got in this frame of mind where, right, this is it. That's how it is. Now, what are my opportunities? What can I do in this time? And I picked a few goals like, okay, the gyms are closed, but I can still go for a run. and I can control what I eat. I can control what I watch on television. I can control projects that I do, like starting a podcast or being on a webinar with you. Everyone that's asked me to be on a webinar, I like to talk, so I say yes. And I think that at first, everyone was so panicked by the unknown that they got scared and they panicked. I think now, actually, if you speak to people, they're getting used to this unknown, and they're naturally changing to the situation. They're naturally starting to control what they can control. They're finding things to do. I literally was on Facebook before. Someone's built a new porch. Someone's built a treehouse for their garden. Someone's writing a book. People are going for walks. That probably people's dogs have never been so fit and happy because the dogs are getting taken out more and more. But people are finding ways to deal with this through engaging in things that they can control. So to relate it back to golf, often when we're on the golf course, we're trying to win. We're trying to shoot a low score. We're trying to qualify for junior worlds. We're trying to win the club championship. We're trying not to hit it in the water. They're all things that you cannot control, much like the vaccine or much like the lockdown being lifted. And if you focus on those things, you get really stressed. So I think there's a good lesson going on right now. People are starting to learn to control what they can control. Stop trying to predict when we're going to be out and what the governor's going to do and what is going to happen to the business, and just take small steps on a daily basis. And that's, again, like what people can do on the golf course if they want to relax and shoot lower scores.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. Now, you talk about accepting what you can't control. How do you do that? That's easy to say, but how do you actually do that?
Yeah, I think the first thing comes with like self-awareness, right? So because I teach this and because I practice this, I was maybe angry or worried or frustrated. Like, how am I going to pay for my car? How I just invested all this money in marketing, or I just did the, man, I wish I didn't do this. And, you know, clients, I'm in a very similar situation to you, that my lesson book is almost stopped because my clients are professional players and they've cancelled the LPGA and European Tour and LE Tour where my players play. Mm-hmm. They're college players and they've cancelled the college season, and they're high school players and they've cancelled the high school season. So my lesson book is almost like gone. Right. So I'm panicking and I'm worrying and I'm thinking about money. And the being able to deal with this firstly starts with understanding that you're having these thoughts, being aware that you're having these thoughts, and knowing that they're not doing you any good. If you're experiencing anxiety, you've got to be aware, right? It's this feeling in the pit of my stomach, or actually for me, when I get stressed, my jaw gets tight and my mind goes a million miles an hour. And after about the first 2 days, which is a long time, right? 2 days, 48 hours. I said to myself, this isn't making me feel great. This isn't healthy. This isn't what I need in my life. What changes am I going to make? Now, 2 days is long compared to some people who have the ability to do that straight away, almost like a Tiger Woods mindset on the golf course, so highly in tune and so self-aware that they can do it instantly. And there's probably people out there that still haven't adapted, that might listen to this and think, yeah, you know what, I have to adapt. I have to stop worrying about it. I can't control it. So I don't know, Kevin, if there's any magic pill to be like, how do you do this? But good ways to work out your own sort of brain and how it's functioning. Because the most important conversations we have in life are the ones we have with ourselves. And people forget that we talk to ourselves all day long. Yeah. You might not put it out there in the world, but what's going on in here, sometimes it's a deep, dark, crazy place, right? We're the only people that hear it.
That's right.
So firstly, understand that the most important conversations are the ones that you're having with yourself, and try and tune into them. What are you saying to yourself in this moment? And with all my education, I knew that what I was saying to myself was out of my control. That's why I was getting stressed. And it still took me 2 days. So if you want to accelerate that process, you could get a green and a red pen. And every time you have a negative thought, you can put a red dot on a piece of paper. And every time you have a positive thought, you can put a green dot. And if you want to be a positive person, which we are not designed to be, by the way, we are designed to think negative. That's how we stay safe. That's how we stop being run over by a bus or a car or getting squashed when we cross the road. We are designed to be negative. But ultimately, if you want to try and shift your mindset to be more positive, track your thoughts with red and green pens and try and get to a 3-to-1 ratio in favor of green. So that would be a practical task that can help you manage your awareness. Journaling is a phenomenal way.
Right.
If you start having certain thoughts, write them down and ask yourself, why am I having this thought? Is this thought healthy? How can I reframe this thought in a positive way? I think a lot of successful people journal. And then the other would be meditation. You are scientifically proven, if you meditate just for a couple of minutes and try and sit with your brain and listen to it. And meditation isn't this weird thing where you're going to clear your brain.
Yeah.
It's literally having these thoughts come in, acknowledge them and letting them pass. That's actually,
could meditation also be just focusing on your breathing?
Yeah. So you're focusing on your breathing, and then all of a sudden this thought's going to come in. Because it's going to, right? Because your brain is active.
Yeah.
Unless you are Buddha or unless you are one of the Cheyenne monks that's done this and can do those, that live in silence. We live in this fast modern world, especially where you guys are, a lot of your clients are based. Like, it might be the most fast-paced city in the world. So what I would say is, if you are meditating and you have a thought, a negative thought, a positive thought, or your mind wanders, you've not failed. That's the point. You're supposed to have that thought and be like, okay, I've had a thought. That's interesting. Let it pass. Go back to my breathing.
Yeah.
Some people have told me, oh, I can't meditate. But if you can breathe and if you can talk, you can meditate.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. And I think going back to something that you had said, most people, when they get tense or nervous, their jaw tightens up. And I actually think, yawning or chewing gum, if you have gum, or doing something, it'll relax your jaw and it tends to relax you. If you think of some of the great athletes, I always go back to thinking of Michael Jordan. When he was playing his best, his tongue was hanging out of his mouth, doing all sorts of things. He was so relaxed.
Yeah.
And when you catch yourself in a moment and you're tight, you could almost feel your jaw and everything. You get dry mouth because you're so tight in there. And it was interesting, having Masters Week being last week, they were showing images of Tiger. Tiger was chewing gum while he was playing.
Mm-hmm.
So and I think there's definitely something to that. What do you think?
There is the prefrontal cortex. So the part of the brain that is like the CEO for the brain. So, when we have a business, we have a CEO, and that's the executive thinker. That's the person who makes decisions, looks for danger, strategizes. They're should be powerful and they should be thinking, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So the CEO, the prefrontal cortex, is the part that can potentially drive a lot of this negative self-talk, drive a lot of this worry. When you chew, apparently, and I don't know, I just know there's papers on this, the prefrontal cortex is supposed to go offline a little bit. So we have that negative voice that keeps us alive. The CEO, or the inner chimp, as I call it in some of my books. Chewing gum is supposed to take that offline. Deep breathing, diaphragmatic breathing is supposed to take that offline. So there is evidence. And also another way you could look at this, Kevin, is if you have anxiety and you want to get rid of it, willpower doesn't work. You can't just like stop it. You can't think, right, I'm going to be positive and I'm not going to get a tight jaw and I'm not going to get stressed anymore. Doesn't work like that. What you actually have to do is you have to do what we would call a pattern interrupt. So the patterns that your brain fire, you have to interrupt them. And the best way to do that is by putting a new pattern in its place, a new habit in its place. So if you feel stressed, even just the fact of going, I'm stressed, let's have a chewing gum, and chewing down on the chewing gum, you've now started a new pattern. So the brain is like, this is interesting. This doesn't normally happen. Should I continue to get stressed, or do I need to find another route to go down? And that then gives you the opportunity to rewire some of the programs that are in your brain.
So what are some things that we could do with this forced timed off that we have to prepare for this or to practice this at home? You have anything we can do?
Yeah, I mean, I would start for people that this all depends on the individual. So this is generic advice right now. If anyone wants something specific, we can always.
They can ask a question too. If anyone's got
they can ask a question, or they can get on. They could get on like a free 30-minute call with me tomorrow or the next day if someone has something really pressing or personal.
Yeah.
But what I would say is, I think practically what I said, just do the thought tracker. Try and do the thought tracker. Try some meditation. Try some journaling. And what I also recommend is it's very easy. And I'm guilty of it. And I'm sure you're guilty of it from time to time. I know your kids will be guilty of it because I know Jordan. Yeah. We get absorbed in things very easily that we don't necessarily want to be. The mobile phone being the primary option.
Huge distraction.
Junk food being a primary option, that go into the fridge. Netflix being another primary example of that. So what I would say is plan your perfect day. And I'm not saying don't eat junk food. What I'm saying is that's a reward. So understand that you're maybe indulging too much. And I get up, I have 8 hours sleep. So no matter what time I go to bed, I'll sleep for 8 hours. Okay. And then I will have my day planned out. So it'll be like exercise, and then it will be webinars or conference calls, or do a podcast, or stretch, or phone calls, or study and read. And I will build like Netflix into that. So if you ask me the next question of, hey, what's Peaky Blinders and what's this like and what's this like, I can answer it because I've seen every single one of them.
Right.
But I'm watching them on my terms. I'm not letting my brain run me. I'm running my brain because I'm getting up in the morning, I'm planning out my perfect day, and I will put that I'm going to watch Netflix. If I achieve everything I want to achieve from 8 o'clock till 8 o'clock, I will watch 2 or 3 hours of Netflix, and I will eat chocolate, and I will have a soda, and I will really enjoy it. But I'll schedule it because those small rewards are part of my perfect day. Right now, they mean a lot to me. The fact that Starbucks is still open here, and I'm not earning money, but man, my trip to Starbucks means so much right now.
Right.
It goes into my perfect day. Yeah. Along with everything else. So I'll review that. I'll go back over that. So what can you do in this hard time? Gain some awareness over your thoughts. Meditation is a great way. Journaling is a great way. Thought tracker is a great way. Figure out things that you are just being sucked into, like your mobile phone, like Netflix, like junk food. Plan your perfect day and put those little indulgences as tiny rewards. And I'll just quickly go into the science of why this happens.
Okay.
When you go on your phone, when you eat sugar, when you're lying down watching Netflix, you are getting what's called hits of dopamine. Dopamine is a pleasure chemical in the brain. It's actually the same thing that you get from nicotine or taking heroin. That's why people get addicted. So, like it or not, you are addicted to your phone. And if you're over snacking, you are addicted to sugar because your dopamine sensors in the brain want that short-term pleasure hit. And they probably want it more than ever right now because stimulation of work and stimulation of socializing and all those things have been taken away from you. So you are letting, if you are indulging in those things too much, you are letting your brain run you. You are not running your brain. So it comes all the way back round to building that self-awareness. It starts with self-awareness.
Yeah. So here's someone, Cliff, who's a student of mine. Actually, I think Cliff just graduated college. He's a good player. He said, when you have a good round going, what's the best way to keep your mind off what score you might be able to shoot? Okay, that's something we're always challenging, right? We're 4 under through 5, and you're like, wow, this could be a course record today, and that, you know, and then the rails can come off. How do we stay in the present? You know, forget about what we can shoot or what we are shooting, but how do we focus on the next shot?
So again, and thanks for asking the question, and thanks for being on the webinar. All of those things that I've just said about dealing with the coronavirus and having self-awareness and understanding, you know, you want to win because winning is going to give you a dopamine hit. We're addicted to it. So you might want to win to get that picture on Instagram, and then you get people giving you likes, and that gives you a dopamine hit. You might want to win because you're trying to earn money, and money will bring you this, and that gives you a dopamine hit. So ultimately, we're as humans, we're designed to search for outcome. Now, the reason that we want to try to not search for outcome is because it's uncontrollable. And if you're trying to control your score, if you're trying to control being recruited in college, if you're trying to control winning, if you're trying to control making a birdie on a par 5 because it's a short par 5, very, very hard to control that because you can get bad bounce. A college coach that's going to recruit you might not recruit you because you wore red shoes and he likes green shoes. You just never know. But these things you can only influence, you can't control. So you want to try and assume control. So I've never played professional golf. And as Kevin knows, I'm not the world's best golfer. But some of the players that I've worked with have gone from mini tour to European tour, playing for millions of euros. And they've gone from broke to broke, but on the European tour. And what we did was we wrote a scorecard. We created a scorecard, and they picked 2 or 3 things that they would do in their pre-shot routine. And they picked 1 or 2 things that they would do in between shots that they could 100% control. And then they would score those things on every hole.
Oh, okay.
And one of my tour players got so into this that he would text me his process score. Processes are the things that you can control, the thoughts that you can control. He would text me his process score, and he wouldn't actually tell me his score. I would go online and look at his score. And when we spoke on the phone, I would pretend I didn't know his score. So we got to this point where we only talked about routine. Yeah. And there's a video of this on YouTube that I'll send to you. He was playing in the Czech Republic when he only had maybe 7 or 8 starts on the European tour. And he played in a wet, windy day, tough day out in the Czech Republic, narrow fairways, thick, claggy rough if you hit it off the fairway. I think he shot 3 under in the final round. And he didn't know that until he got to the scorer's tent and signed his score. And it moved him over 30 places up the leaderboard on the final day. That's a ton of money for someone in his position. But he never thought about the money. He never thought about the leaderboard. He never thought about the score. He only thought about these little things that he can control. And he was trying to beat his personal best score that he got the week before when he qualified for the Open.
Mm.
So he really just immersed himself in what we would call process. So again, his processes and your processes, was it Cliff? Sorry.
Yeah, it's Cliff.
Yeah. His processes and your processes, Cliff, will be very different. You have to find out what are the best processes for you to put in place, and then just try and focus on them. And there's a lot of fulfillment and a lot of solace and peace to be found when you start controlling the things you can control and just let all the other chaos around you happen. I think the best at it on the PGA Tour and the most mature when it comes to this right now, if you listen to his interviews, is Rory McIlroy. You can really learn a lot from listening to him talk about how he doesn't care about his score. He doesn't care if he wins. He's just going to go out and follow his processes. And he learned that the hard way in the Masters.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, coming from the playing side, when I used to, and I actually learned this from Jim McLean a long, long time ago. I used to caddy for Jim in all the events when he was a head professional and didn't have a lot of time to practice. Our practicing for his tournaments was the night before. And one of the things that Jim always had me do to help kind of bring him back into what's going on right now was I had to ask him a question. And the question is, what are we doing right now on this shot, Jim? And I've incorporated that into my own game. I work a lot, as everyone knows, and I don't get to play too well, or to play too much. But when I do play, I tend to play well. And asking myself that question allows me to forget what happened on the previous hole, whether it was good or bad, and it helps you kind of focus in on what I'm trying to do for this shot. And it could be any kind of a cue. It could be seeing a shot. It could be something in your swing. It could be a breath. It could be anything.
Yeah.
But it's something that I think it helps kind of bring you back into the present, regardless of how good or bad things are going. And I think it's something good that I've incorporated in my game, and I think people could try that. We have another good question here.
Can I build on that one, Kevin, before?
Oh, yeah, go right ahead.
Just a couple of things for people to actually apply, because I think sports psychology sometimes gets very theoretical and non-applicable, and you gave something practical there. So for the people that are listening that want to try and master this, go play 9 holes and talk your routine out loud. And if at any time you're not talking, you're probably not focusing. For example, as you're having a practice swing, you'll probably go silent. As you're walking to the ball, you'll probably go silent. I would challenge you not to. I would challenge you to say, okay, I'm feeling this on this practice swing. And Kevin taught me to really sort of stare at the target as I walk to the ball. So I'm staring at the target. I'm staring at the target. Okay, now I'm over the ball. Breath to relax, get my right grip pressure, and nice and smooth. If you can start finding those cues, and there's a video of Jordan Spieth doing this online, and it's phenomenal on YouTube, and I can share the link. So practice your routine, practice talking out loud, and you'll start to understand where the things that you can place your focus on that are within your control when you're playing golf.
Yeah. We got a question from Facebook here. Tom Harris asks, is there a way to balance your negative thoughts with your positive thoughts? It's an interesting question, right? Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't. Again, it's a bit like what I said earlier. We are designed to be negative. So first of all, understand that you are designed to be negative, and that's a great thing. Because if you weren't, you'd be dead because you'd get squashed by a car or you'd jump in a lake full of gators. So we are designed to be negative, and it's a gift. It's called an innate human survival mechanism. It stems from the Stone Age, and it's a gift. It keeps us alive. It's why we are the most dominant species on the planet, but it screws up your golf. It screwed up Adam Scott when he started to try and avoid danger in the 2012 Open. It screwed up Rory McIlroy. It screwed up John Van der Velde. It screwed up a lot of people last year on the 12th Augusta. Yeah. So understand that it's a natural process. And if you're having negative thoughts, it's okay. It shows you're a functional, healthy, normal human being. What you've got to start to do is to just try and focus on things in your routine or in between shots, body language, breathing, positive reframes. If something negative happens, search for the positive in it.
Right.
I think a lot of people after this coronavirus are going to be a lot more positive after they miss a 3-foot putt. Like, well, thank God, at least I'm out here.
Yeah.
You know, I'd
Yeah.
rather miss a 3-foot putt right now than be locked back up in my house for the next
Absolutely.
X amount of months.
Oh yeah.
So go on, Kevin.
No, I was going to say, I think that, that part of that comes to committing to the shot. You get people all the time, they get up over a shot and they hit this horrible shot. And I'm like, well, what was going on there? He goes, well, I was trying not to miss it to the left.
Yeah.
And they blew it out to the right. And I like, and I always, my response to that is, look, I would much rather have you commit to a shot and hit it. And even if you hit it bad, at least you committed to it.
Yeah.
Because, you did what you wanted to do. And to me, that's a success. And I always go back to a story. I've known Brad Faxon for a long, long time and used to work with him for a little bit back in the early 2000s. And Brad once said his best putting rounds weren't the rounds that he made every putt. His best putting rounds were the rounds where he hit the ball on the line that he wanted to at the speed that he wanted to. Now, usually they would go in, but that's not how he rated a round. It was did he accomplish those two things? Because that was his goal. And I think if he can, that's kind of along those lines of what you were saying. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and I mean, you're talking Brad Faxon there, right? So you're talking like a legend. So I whatever that guy did worked, right?
Yeah.
He ultimately, I've never met him. I've met him, but I've never spoken to him. I don't know him. You have a better insight to me, but you're correct. He's found a way, that negative voice that we need to hear in our daily life to keep us safe or help us make rational decisions or keep us paying the mortgage or paying the bill. That rational voice that makes us act smart sometimes makes us a little too defensive. And on the golf course, sometimes makes us worry. So Brad Faxon has found a way to quieten that negative voice. And you can just watch these guys play. Brooks Koepka, I don't know if he's had that part of his brain removed because he just looks like he's just a bad dude, right? He just looks like
doesn't care.
Just looks like a stone cold killer. And he's so calm. And they've almost got to this point where they don't care. And it's not that they don't care. They care in practice and they care when they're in the gym but when they turn up, they're just chilled. So I think finding your way to quieten this inner voice that you need to have in your life in some situations, but in others you need to quieten it. And one way is basically what you just said it, and I'll just give an analogy. I'm going to assume most people are sat down watching this. So if I say to you, don't think about your bum on the chair or don't think about your feet on the floor, right? Don't think about your feet on the floor. No, don't think about. The first thing everyone thought about was their feet on the floor.
Right.
So when you stand up and be like, right, don't hit it left, and then you hit it 50 yards right, well, first of all, success, you didn't hit it left, but you can't be playing golf to avoid.
Yeah.
You have to be, you said it earlier, Kevin, what's this shot? What are you going to do on this shot? And if you were caddying, or, we've both been fortunate enough to be around tour caddies, and I've caddied a couple of times. If a player said to me, I'm not going to hit this in the water, whoa, let's put the club back in the bag.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to, we want to, in golf, when we're talking about plan, we want to move towards something. So Tiger Woods was the best. It was like, right, I don't want to hit this out of bounds left. I don't want to hook this. Tiger lived his whole life. I don't want to hook this. Okay. So what are you going to do? So it's okay to have these negative thoughts, but then ask yourself the next question. And Tiger sometimes would be, I'm going to aim in the right rough. and I'm going to hit a slice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
he
right.
was fine with that. He was fine with that. So again, that could, because what you said, Kevin, he could commit to that. He couldn't commit to hitting it down the center of the fairway, but he could commit to hitting it in the trees. And again, that's knowing, going on the course with you, having on-course lessons, understanding how that works is a very, very valuable. And I've been on the course with you while you've coached this to players very well. So anyone listening, I would recommend that, because it's one of the easiest ways to bring your score down.
Absolutely. Here's a great question from Cole that you know. What's the best way to keep 100% focused rather than, boring block practice? Are there any drills or anything? And this is something, Iain, that I think you're fantastic at. And we've worked a lot over the years with groups of kids, and the way you get them engaged on the range, I think is fantastic. And this is a great question for now, since we all have this time. We all have 10, 12 hours a day to sit at home and think about golf and practice golf. And what are some things that you can recommend for people to do at home to not, to make practice not boring?
Yeah, so I'll try and answer that. Firstly, hey, Cole. I feel bad for Cole. I think we had a call on Tuesday. He asked me one question, and my answer lasted an hour. I feel bad for him that he's back on here again. So I'll try and answer that in two parts. I'll answer it firstly with the ideal situation.
Okay.
And then I'll answer it how you can adapt this for your house. So if you're on the range, a lot of the time when you get bored, it's because your practice is boring. And a couple of things, or three things, that our brain loves, if we are going to learn, our brain loves these three ingredients. It's space, variability, and challenge. So you need to figure out a way of having more space between each shot on the range, more variability in your tasks, and more challenge. Practice needs to be a little more challenging, and then the brain will stay engaged. So I think a very good way to do this is, I'm going to use you as an example, Kevin.
Okay.
Anyone that's having a lesson with Kevin probably has a drill or has a swing move that they are working on. So what I would do is, I would get not the whole pyramid of balls or a big bucket of balls. I would get 5 balls, and you are allowed 5 balls doing the drill that Kevin wants you to do. Once those 5 balls are gone, you go and get another 5 balls, and you might do 5 slow motion swings where you hit that ball only 20 yards, focusing on the move that Kevin wants you to do. But this time it's full slow motion swing. It's not just the drill. And then you can go back, get 5 more balls, and go to just the drill. So what we've done there is we've done 5 balls of what Kevin wants you to do, the drill. Then you've put that into 5 slow motion swings, and you've changed the task just a little bit. You've added space between each shot because you have to walk and get your next 5 balls. And that, when you go from the first 5 balls to then the second 5 balls, back to the first 5 balls, your brain thinks, oh, what was I doing on that first set? I can't quite remember. So it's a little more challenging for your memory. That's what helps us learn. And then, as Cole will know, you can, if you're a slightly better player like Cole would be, you have to maybe hit your first 5 balls, do your drill, and then maybe you have to chip it to 6 feet. And then maybe you have to hold a 10-foot putt before you're allowed the next 5. And then maybe you have to hit a driver over 280 yards in the air before you're allowed the next 5. And what you're starting to do now is starting to put little bits of performance in between those 5 ball technical sets. Very, very, very powerful way to do it. For those of us that don't have simulators or nets at home, that is harder to do, but you don't always need the golf ball. So you could at home, you could do 5 breathing exercises. We talked about breathing earlier. So you could spend 1 minute doing some breathing exercises, and then you could do 5 slow motion swings. And then you could do 1 minute doing some stretches for part of your body that's tight, that's interfering with your golf swing. And then you could do 5 slow motion swings. And then you could do 1 minute plank if you need your abs to be stronger playing golf. And then you could do 5 slow motion swings, etc., etc., etc. And again, I've tried to, if you think of Peloton, the exercise bike, you get on that exercise bike and you watch someone and you copy them. So I've actually done 5 or 6 videos for this lockdown period where you can watch me do slow motion indoor practice. So I will share them with people and they can follow this system that adds spacing, variability, and challenge. They can follow it on YouTube and really just copy what I do. Mm-hmm. But after 25, 30 minutes, you'll be fried because it's really hard. It's really demanding. If you just rake and hit golf balls, that's not an optimal learning environment.
Yeah, no, not at all. And I think, nowadays being at home, I think, one of the things I'll add into that, I think you can do things that you wouldn't normally do because you don't have to worry about going out to play. I know I always get a question like, what do I do when in the winter season when I can't go out and play, and it's time to work on some big things. And we kind of got spoiled up here in New York because our season started in March. We were outside hitting balls, playing golf in March. It was pretty amazing. And then we got it taken away from us. And I think now is not a bad time to go back and work on some of the things that you started to do in the early winter. And most of my students, I try to get them working on speed.
Yeah.
Speed's one of the hardest things to work on because the first thing that it gets affected is your direction control. No one wants to hit it out of the planet. Even if they're hitting it farther, they're hitting it farther out of play. But I think now is a great time to take advantage of this, of the time that we have and work on some speed stuff that we've worked on. I know you've got some exercises. There's lots of information out there to do, but go ahead and work on the speed element because you don't need a ball. And all you do is need to be able to go outside so you don't break any of the chandeliers in the house. And then you can work, so that would be something that I would suggest, for Cole too, is to just go out there and just go as hard as you can. My only requirement is that you don't lose your balance, and obviously make sure that your body is able to handle the speed.
Yeah. So
you don't want to get hurt.
Yeah. To add to that, I know that Cole got a net because it was like 10 Christmases came at once when he got this net for his garden. So I think that it could be 5 balls with a drill that Kevin wants you to work on. Then it could be 5 speed balls. Then it could be 5 slow motion swings, or Cole will be aware what sandwich training is. 5 sandwich training, and then 5 speed. Just as long. Blocked practice is good when it's in tiny little blocks. And if you're changing these blocks each time, so blocks of 5, just doing the same task 5 times and then change task and then change task. And that is going to create an effective learning environment. And for the junior golfers, phenomenal way to revise. Yeah. 10 minutes on English, do a small English test. 10 minutes on mathematics, do a small mathematics test, take a break, come back, retest, see what you can get when you retest, and maybe put super loud music on to try and distract you when you retest. This is a phenomenal way to revise because what do a lot of juniors say? I don't want to practice golf, it's boring. I don't want to revise, it's boring. This means you can do more in a shorter period of time. It's more effective. So, and it's not boring. It's quite fun to do because you're self-measuring yourself, you're testing yourself, and you've changed this environment where if you're successful there, you're probably more likely to be successful in the exam studio or the exam hall because it's easier. There's no rock music putting you off now, etc. So I think there's a lot to be learned. And from people who want more information on that, I'll send the PDF, Kevin, that's the first couple of chapters of my book for free. And that will explain this in more detail. And my YouTube channel will have it on some stuff on it as well.
So that brings up one of the questions that I have is I have a high level college player. Just his season basically is over. He just started playing really well towards the end of his spring season, and it's done. And I saw his dad like 2 weeks ago, and they have a simulator at home, but the kid has no interest at all to pick up a club because his spring season is over. Summer golf's probably not going to happen very much for him, and there's even talks about fall golf being canceled. So
Wow.
his motivation level is really, really low.
Yeah.
What do you and like for me, I was all excited for this season. I had a pretty good playing season last year. I was excited to come out and play in the spring, and I'm actually exempt for a few tournaments this year. And for me, it's like I haven't touched the club in weeks either. What advice do you have for people to help get remotivated to get out there?
Well, I love CrossFit. I can't go one of these webinars without talking about CrossFit. Okay, so I'm in a similar position where I think you knew me, Kevin, when I was a little more physically challenged. Shall we use that term, or rotund, however you want to put it?
Yeah.
And I discovered CrossFit, and I started competing only on like a local level, and I would enter the first round of the CrossFit Games and get basically entering the qualifier for the US Open and shooting 80 is about my CrossFit level. But I do it because it's fun and it drives me. And the gym closed. So I can't go to CrossFit, and they're probably going to cancel the CrossFit Games. So I'm in a very similar situation. So I replaced that habit with, I built a challenge for my friends, and it's more based around running, something that we can do at this time. Mm-hmm. I also replaced it with trying to write a third book. And I also replaced it with launching a podcast. They're opportunities that I've taken from this adversity. And I've had this conversation with Cole. I had it with the whole of the Ledbetter Junior Golf Academy. I've had it with tour players who have kids and families. Like, what do you want to be? Do you want to be just a golfer? Do you want 100% of your identity to be locked in golf? Or do you want something else? I saw one of the European tour players the other day playing a guitar. That's what he's doing. He's playing his guitar and he's singing. He's putting music online. A Dutch player, I think it was. It was amazing. Amazing. Yeah. Does anyone have I would use the term, an itch they haven't scratched yet? Do you want to be a writer? Do you like art? Do you like poetry? Do you want to learn a new skill? Do you want to make money right now? Can you go online and study digital marketing and launch a Facebook page? Like, do you want to launch a podcast? What is it that you want to do? Because my main concern is when someone says to me, the golf season's over, I have no motivation. Well, you have no motivation for golf, which I fully understand. And I'm completely compassionate for, but you're a human being. So what else is in your life outside of golf? And if there isn't anything, you need to find something, because if your identity is linked to your score or your results or your status within the golf world, you will be regularly disappointed. You need an escape route. And
Absolutely.
Tour players better than me, the successful tour players. Jimenez, what would he be doing? Tasting his red wine, smoking his cigars, being a connoisseur. Lee Westwood will be researching horses. And I think someone had a record label I read recently. Some European tour guy put money into a record label. So what can you do? There has to be something that's going to stimulate you as a human being and something outside of golf. Take the opportunity to find that.
Right. Got to have some balance. We got a couple of minutes. So here's a question from Joe. He says, I've heard high level players say that they are only target focused and try to stay relatively blank in terms of technique during competition. And those who need to consciously be telling themselves what it is they need to do to perform that shot. Do you have a preference? Or he said you have a definite preference. So it sounds like, do you like to go blank, or do you like to have something conscious?
Very well phrased, very well articulated. First of all, for whoever Joe is, that was very well put. You must have done some good reading. People that say, and Kevin, I think you're going to be able to shed some light on this. People that say that all tour players do this, that's not true.
Yeah.
That's not true. And all tour, or this player does this, well, probably at some point they did something else. So there is no one size fits all. Now, the research suggests that if you are target focused, that you potentially will be more free, more reactive, and you'll play better golf. Now, when people conduct research, if they study 100 people and the research says 70 benefited from this, the research concludes that it's better. But what about the other 30 that were on the other side of the research? Still, if you're coaching 100 people, that's 30% of people that aren't going to benefit from target focus. So I think it's always changing. I think it's always dynamic. It's always different for everyone. And the way I like to put it is this. I don't necessarily like thinking lots of different swing thoughts and hinge and this. I don't necessarily like that. I think there's a time and place for it. I think at some times people have to go in and play like that. It's like an SOS thing. But ultimately, I like to use the word focus. Where is your focus? When you are walking to the ball, what are you focused on? When you are having your practice swing, what are you focused on? There's a difference between thinking and focusing. Now, you might have to think to learn the skill, but then over time to perform the skill, you probably just have to focus.
Right. That's very well said, actually. You put that perfectly.
Okay, and that's a mixture of speaking with experts like Kevin, expert coaches, speaking with expert players, scientists, researchers, lots of books, and my own experience. It's a big melting pot, and that would be the best answer that I can come up with.
Yeah, I mean, I think, just my little 2 cents in this is, your mind can't go blank. Something's going to go on in your mind. So you need to control what's going on in there and have a thought. It doesn't have to be a swing thought. It could be a thought about a shot or whatever, because if, like you said, if you practice it enough, your body will do the shot. If you've hit enough shots, if the shot is you got to hit a knockdown 7-iron, you've hit 1,000 knockdown 7-irons in your life. So you can picture that in your mind, and that becomes your swing thought, so to speak. It's it's what you're trying to focus on, as you said. But it's not an actual technique thing. It's just you're focusing on a shot that you've played 1,000 times and drawing on your experience.
Yeah, and imagery and feel definitely drives movement more effectively than thought. And that thing where they talk about, oh, you know what? I don't think, I just like to feel, or I'm just going to go blank. Well, I've had a player on the Euro Pro, which is like the one under the Challenge Tour, shoot 29 on the back nine, and he put his bag on his back on the 18th green, and he walked to the next tee. And it was the 18th green. He'd won, and he didn't know. The player I told you about earlier, when they shot that score in the Czech Republic, it was a bit of one of those sort of blackouts. You hear the stories of Tiger blacking out. And you know what? That's called the zone, or that's called flow state. And if you believe that someone turns up on the golf course and gets in flow state every single time they play, they are telling you what I would say porcupines, lies. It's not true, because that is that heightened sense of awareness that just happens those one or two times. Even me, who doesn't play very often, now and again, you can just, oh, I'm hitting fade, then I'm hitting draw, and just have this extra feel. You can't plan for that. You can't prepare for that. That is when you win. And it's one of these weird scenarios. There's a great book. Anyone who wants to learn more on this, read The Rise of Superman. Absolute phenomenal book. People that generate, you've read it, Kevin, right?
Yeah.
The people that will generate flow state a lot are fighter pilots and Red Bull divers, and Gary Way, I think they call him, the skateboarder who jumped over the wall of China. Because if they don't get in flow, then they'll die. F1 racing car drivers, when they're going around corners at 120 miles an hour, are kind of in flow because it's a near-death experience. Unfortunately, or fortunately for golfers, if you miss a 2-foot putt, the consequence isn't quite the same as crashing a fighter plane. So getting in that flow state is not something that happens all that often in golf. I think, like Kevin says, you have to have something to think about, or as I put it, you have to have something to focus on to keep you in process and block out all the distractions and noise.
Yeah. So, Iain, we're just about the end of our hour here. Do you have time for one more question?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So, because Cole asked a very good question again. It says, what are the best? I'm going to take out the word best. What are some good breathing techniques or thoughts, that you can have throughout a round, or do you, and I'm going to tie that into kind of like a pre-shot routine. So what are some things that people can do to kind of bring them back into the present? Is it breathing? Is it something else? What are some things you like to have your players do?
Yeah, 3 things that would really hit home would be body language, breathing, and self-talk. So a good one to practice body language is get a sharp pencil, and after every shot, when you're playing 9 holes with your friends or just practicing, put the sharp pencil like this. Because then if you go like this, ow, pain. And you're going to condition yourself to walk like this. Now, think of movies. When you see a movie and the guy breaks up with the girl, or the girl breaks up with the guy, and they cry, the first thing they do is they go forward and their head comes down and they're like this, and then they start crying. No one cries like this because you can't, because your body responds to your thoughts and your thoughts respond to your body. So Ian Poulter is the master of this. So I would model what Ian Poulter does. I would model how Ian Poulter walks. I would put a sharp pencil under there and walk, and get used to having your shoulders pinned back and your head up, because it's very, very, very hard to think negatively from that position. The best way to breathe, if anyone Googles meditation monkey mind, it's a 90-second video on YouTube. And literally, it doesn't matter how you breathe, just be in tune with your breathing. Kevin said that earlier. Just hear your heart, hear your breath, feel your heart, and that will get your mind in the present. If you want to add to that, feel your feet on the floor. As you walk, try and feel every blade of grass under your golf shoes. Try and listen to the sound of the grass. And if you are really struggling and you need to interrupt a crazy time where you're on a meltdown, try and recite your own phone number backwards. That's always a good one, because it gets this part of the brain sort of stop scrambling around and back online. Or have an elastic band around here and pull it and ping it.
That'll wake you up.
So they're all things like in between shots. And then, you know how I like to teach breathing, Kevin. I like diaphragmic breathing. The Juilliard Music School. If anyone wants to play in the Juilliard Music School and sing, you're going to turn up. They're going to tell you to lie on the floor. They're going to put loads of books on your stomach, and they're going to make you breathe and teach you to get these books to go up and down with your belly. In through your nose, the books go up. Out through your mouth, the books come down, because it teaches you to breathe through your diaphragm. And if you breathe through your diaphragm, motor control, which is movement of the golf club, and your actual psychology will benefit. So the way that you think and process things and the way that you move will benefit from the diaphragmic breathing. A way you can practice that is how I just explained, by lying on the floor, and I have a video on YouTube. Or also play speed golf, run around your garden. If you've got a net, run around your garden or skip for a minute, and then give yourself 10 seconds to bring down your breathing and hit a shot. Yeah, I think I dropped I threw a lot out there at the end.
That was great. So Iain, thank you. So if people have, there are a few more questions we didn't get to, and we'll go ahead and answer those questions kind of directly. If somebody wants to get in touch with you, how do they find you?
Yeah, so the first thing is I'm going to put together an email for Kevin, maybe tomorrow or maybe Saturday, where you will get access to some resources. You'll get access to some resources will be free, and then some of them will be my books that you can purchase, or some of them will be my online courses that you'll get a discount code because you are friends with Kevin. I'll put all that together. Game-like training on YouTube. Game-like training, black and yellow logo. You can find a lot of this on there for free. Instagram, Game L training. You can find a lot of, again, this stuff on there for free. And then I offer everyone, every time I've done one of these webinars, I offer a 30-minute free power call. So anyone who wants to book a free power call with me, they can phone me up, and I will talk to anyone for 30 minutes. We just have to schedule it.
Wow.
And
That's
then obviously
huge.
my goal, obviously my goal off that is for someone to become a client. And again, they'll get a preferential rate because they're friends with you or work with you. But that would be my offer to everyone here. So yeah, just Kevin, I'll put my phone number in that email because I think we'll use this talk outside of this group at some point. So I don't want to put my phone number on there. Yeah. I'll put it in the email.
Yeah, perfect. This will be live. People can rewatch this, or you can send some of your friends to watch this. It'll be on my YouTube channel, and it'll be on my Facebook. I want to thank everyone for asking some great, insightful questions. I want to thank you, Iain, for your time. I know you're very busy with everything that you've been doing. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm going to be on again tomorrow night at 8 p.m. with Kirk Adams from the Ben Shear Golf and Fitness, and we're going to be talking fitness and how your body can affect your golf swing. So tune in tomorrow again at 8 p.m. We'll be the same thing, Zoom here or on Facebook Live. So please join in there. And please, if you have any more questions, you can post them on my Facebook page or reach out to Iain, and we'll get to you as quickly as we can. So Iain, thank you. Have a great night.
Thanks, Kevin. Stay safe, and thanks everyone
for everyone joining. And we'll hopefully see you guys tomorrow night.
Bye-bye.